All right, back in the basement again, and I figured I would try to log daily this last week of the peak. And the peak is interesting on the Juggernaut AI app, which I've been running now for a year and a half almost. I've been logging this meet prep for a USAPL meet in just 6 days from now. Check the playlist, which I'll link on the screen if you haven't seen that and are interested in learning it. But the peak is interesting because number one, it changes the days up like I mentioned in the last video, but also the last 2 weeks are actually a combined week. So today is technically day 8, where I've never had a day 8 before because everything goes in weeks. And I basically just want to try to update you each day that I'm training, give you my feedback. As I've mentioned, I've been feeling really good lately. Last peaking block before my meet, I ended up having to take a couple days off just because I was so run down. Feel really good right now, and I'm hoping that continues. So today, it was an SBD day, so squat, bench, and deadlift in that order. And the app gave me some suggested ranges for both reps and for sets. So I decided to take the back end, or I should say the lighter end of the set recommendation. So I just did the minimum, but I tried to push the weights towards the higher end without going too high and without doing that normal meathead math of rounding up to bigger numbers, because I want to stay fresh, but I also don't want to go too light to the point where it's not very beneficial at all. So for squats for me, top sets were at 375. For sets of 3, I rated everything in RPE 5, which is great. Building some confidence, knowing that I feel good is a great feeling to have. From there, moved on to bench, did a couple sets of 5 at 225. Rated that in RPE 5 as well, before supersetting that in with comp style deadlifts, 395 for just some doubles. And again, I just did that for like 3 working sets because again, taking the lighter end, it recommended up to 8 sets. But fatigue for me for deadlifts is always real. So really trying to go on the side of caution for that event, just because I want to have some there in the tank next week. But overall, day 1 is done. It was a very short session, 40 minutes overall. Again, supersetting in bench and deadlift help. And I also just like to take my sweet ass time between sets as is. So 3 movements, all done, all RPE 5, moving on to the next day. All right, guys, so day 2 or day 9, if you will. Again, this peak that we're doing is a 2-week peak, at least the last half of it's combined. So day 9, a little bit different. So I thought I was done doing what I would consider moderately heavy lifts. That was not the case. So today, another SBD day. So 2 in a row, if you will. Comp squat, top single at 475, then some back off doubles at 420. Then comp bench, top single 285, and then back off sets with 250, back off doubles. And then comp deadlift 375 for just some doubles. I did 3 sets. Again, it suggested anywhere between 3 to 8. I just went with the 3 sets in this case. Overall, the squat I think felt pretty good. I rated it at an RPE 6, and then bench felt really good, RPE 6 as well. And the deadlift stuff, I just had it at RPE 5. So again, feeling pretty good. Now tomorrow is supposed to be a active recovery type day. I'm not sure what I'm going to do necessarily. Probably nothing. I'm not going to change it up too much. I'll probably still end up riding the Peloton or something like that for just 5 minutes or so. And maybe I'll check in with you guys tomorrow and just update you how that's going. Or if not, I'll see you on the next lifting day. All right, so I'm checking in with what they call recovery adaptive strategies. It's passive and active means to help decay fatigue and improve your recovery. Blah, blah, blah. Some of their favorites are ice baths and contrast baths and showers. I do not have a water resistant camera. I'm not going to be bringing you into that, and I'm not going to be doing that in general. So my plan for this is to try to keep things as consistent as possible. Where I've kind of faltered in meet preps in the past, or especially the last week, changing things up too much, whether that be my dieting habits and trying to eat too much or not enough to make weight. My goal for this prep is just keep things as consistent as possible. So for me, that means on off days, what I'm gonna do is ride the Peloton, just 5 minutes though. Haven't been doing anything longer than 5 minutes the past couple of weeks, just to get my legs moving. I like it. I'll be doing some stretching stuff later. I've talked about doing ROMWOD again. Probably make a video on that, but other than that, keep it pretty light and keep it pretty consistent. All right, back in the basement again, another training day. This is the Thursday before the meet. So my meet's on Sunday, May 1st. So at the time of this portion of the video, 3 days out, the training is similar to what it's been. Squat, benching, and deadlift. In this case, it is lighter technique work. So on squats, I did 3 sets of 3 at 385, rated them all in RPE 5. Probably less than that for this and the other movements I'm gonna go through, but I just can't rate anything lower through the app. 5 is kind of the lowest you can go, if you will. But everything felt really good, so happy about that. From there, moved on to bench. Gives me some options in what I picked. I decided to go with 225 for 5 sets of 3, all of which, again, I put in as a 5, probably less than that. Feeling and moving good. Finally, finished off with some singles on dead. So it's been doubles up to this point. So singles on deadlift, 375 for 3 singles. And again, rated them an RPE 5 because that's all I can rate them in the app. Now, for some of this technique work, it does give you a range of weights that you can pick. I tend to go towards the more heavier side, or just what I can get in. And then on the volume side, I stay at the lowest suggested volume. And part of that is just because part of me is conflicted about training this often previous to a meet. I mentioned these last 2 weeks of the peak, things change up where I'm training more often than I would during the normal strength training, hypertrophy blocks where I do 4 times per week. I'm doing like 5 times per week. And although again, the intensity is light, the volume is light, it's still kind of like a mental mindfuck, if you will, training this much, especially because it's going to have me train the Saturday before the meet. So I compete on Sunday, it has me in here on Saturday. Obviously, I'll update you guys on that. But again, trying to stick as much to the program as I can for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is the 3rd peak I've done with this app. And the first 2, I wasn't able to stick to it exactly. The first time around, I ended up not feeling well towards the end. I had to push off my actual test out date. So that kind of threw a wrench in the system a little bit. Second time around in prep for a meet, I ended up having to skip some days based off my fatigue levels and what the app suggested to me. And this time around, the 3rd time, I think it's a charm. I've been feeling great, going to continue to ride that train. And I don't want to change or go off this, even because in my mind, I might say, I shouldn't do that. The app has treated me very well up to this point, and I hope that it's going to continue to do so. All right, so here we are. We're 2 days out. It's Friday. I have my recovery day, so to say. As I mentioned the last time, I'm just gonna ride the Peloton. In this case, I'm gonna ride it for 10 minutes just because I'm gonna go really light and I'm really not doing anything else today besides stretching. I do have a training day tomorrow, which I'll update you guys on, but overall, I'm feeling really good. And to be honest, normally at this part of a meet prep, I have felt like crap. I've talked about pulling out of meets because I don't feel like I'm mentally or physically there. And to be honest right now, I don't really care. Like, it's not something that's on my mind that I'm worried about, which to me actually is a really good thing. I tend to overanalyze a lot. And right now at this point where I am, I'm just really looking forward to go out and training and getting those meets done. And I'm optimistic, which is something I can't normally say. So there we go. Just finished my last set of deadlifts on my last training day in my last block before my powerlifting competition tomorrow. So yeah, it's a little weird to be training the day before a competition. I probably would have never programmed that for myself, which is why I don't like to do my own programming. So I'm putting my faith in the app, which I've done for the past 18 months, and it's really been paying off. And I really wanted to run the program to a T this time, because even though I've been running it for so long now, I've never really been able to run it to completion for the peak. I mentioned I got sick before. I mentioned I had to take days off due to fatigue last time around. So this time, ran everything as prescribed. And I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. And that's a different approach for me. Normally, I'm super anxious by right now. And to be honest, right now, I just don't care. I know I've done the work. It's just going to go out and have some fun and try to hit some lifts, try to chip away at my old man total and just be happy with how I do, which I think I am going to do, which again is a change in perspective for me. Normally right now, I'm very down on myself, but very optimistic at this point. Today's training, although I did train, like I mentioned, nothing really too serious. In fact, I probably could have not trained and it wouldn't have been any different. 3 sets of 3 on squats with 225. Didn't belt up because I wouldn't belt up during warm-ups with that weight anyways. From there, moved on to bench. 3 sets of 3 with 135, which is like my second warm-up on bench when I would do it anyway. So again, super light, super easy. Just felt good to get in and move. Finally, finished off with 3 sets of 3 on deadlift with 155, which would have been my first warm-up set anytime I deadlift anyways. I skipped the bar just because it's not in the right position necessarily. And overall, feeling pretty good as I've done. Just hoping it continues tomorrow, and I'm pretty confident that it will regardless. And I'm gonna go out and have some fun and hopefully hit some lifts and again, chip away at that old man total. Thanks so much for following me along in this process. I'll update you on how things went overall. Appreciate all the kind words and support you guys have shown me up to this point, and hopefully you continue to do so. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.